Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Bullseye Podcast. I'm voice of the Bulls, Paul Peck, joined by University at Buffalo Vice President and Director of Athletics, Mark Alnutt. It's our semi-regular monthly chat about all things fun going on at UB Athletics. I feel like we haven't done this in a couple weeks. I missed you.
I miss you as well. But, yeah, you're right.
We haven't done it since before the bowl game, which we're going to talk about in a moment.
Is it bi-monthly? Is it quarterly? Is it just
you're the guy
with spins a wheel and just says, "Hey, let's do it."
You're the guy jet setting around the country for all of your important responsibilities, so it's usually dictated by your schedule.
Yeah, no, well, again, it's always a pleasure for first of all get scheduled to be with you, talk a little bit to UB, talk a little bit to NCAA.
Sure.
And you know what? Be able to have this nice Bahamas.
Oh, look at the giveaways that the big shots got out of the deal.
Showing this, don't tell Jason Martin about this. I don't know if this is an approved sponsor, but it's right here next to me.
It's the Bahamas Bowl. It's approved for everything and anything. So let's start there because we haven't talked since you've been down there. Give me your wrap up on the experience, the trip, the resort, and obviously the game and everything that went along with what was just an amazing couple of days for everybody in the Bulls Nation.
First of all, let's just rewind a little bit. What about the season by Pete Lembo?
Yeah.
And what he came in rather late, especially late in the recruiting cycle. But his ability, his staff's ability to just really mold a team together, build that culture of togetherness. The buy-in was there, peer-led by key players, which we've talked about throughout the year, that turned the season from a 3-9 season last year.
6-win improvement doesn't happen very often, right?
Without a doubt, to a 9-win season, 9-4, culminating, as we're about to talk about here with the Bahamas Bowl. It's a situation where, as he said it, as we all talk about, have to win in November, and we strung together 4 wins to be able to position ourselves to be rewarded with such a great bowl. I mean, we were down there in 2019, just due to stadium renovations. It was pushed back to after the new year, January 4th. But really, when you look at the difference, and from an experience standpoint, as you know, Paul, the resort was dang near at capacity. So
yeah,
there was a lot going on, a lot more options for families that were down there, for staff, for our student athletes, for the many alums that came to the Bahamas.
People came on the cruise ships.
Came on a cruise ship. That was a great experience for them. But to really be able to just experience Bahamas, Atlantis, everything it had to offer. So the trip itself was a great trip, and even football's approach to that trip, giving our student athletes kind of the latitude the first couple nights to really, enjoy it and then lock it in for the game. And, the game came around, and you can tell, in my opinion, just the team that wanted to be there, not necessarily be in Atlantis, going down the slide with the Sharks, but who really wanted to play a football game too. And I believe it started the first series from a defensive effort in terms of what we were able to do, get them out in the 3-and-out, and then for us to march down, score a touchdown. So, great experience. I recommend this bowl game highly to my peers, around the AD table at Mid-American Conference. Obviously there's logistics to it, talking to Meg Prunty in terms of what you have to do to get prepared for it. But in regards to that experience for everyone involved, it's something that people are going to remember, something that people are going to say, hey, Mark, when are we going to do that again? Well, hopefully no time soon, but, maybe a nice rotation of 4 to 5 years. Really the only drawback to it was, again, with the stadium renovations, the stadium was not complete.
Right.
The field
the turf was questionable, right.
We're so fortunate for both us and Liberty not to have any major injuries, from that turf. But the thing about it, they were prepared. As you were watching from your booth, I was watching from the sidelines. Every stop in action, you saw about 10 to 12, people.
Including Pete Lembo at one point during a timeout was out there tamping down turf.
I stepped out something that was close to the sidelines near the hash marks where I was like, not near the hash marks, but the sideline markers where I was like, we got to tap this thing down. But again, they were prepared to present it as best they can. And at the end of the day, to walk out of there with a trophy to add to our collection, and that's, 4 straight bowl wins.
That's right.
Which is something that we can really take pride in.
First team to ever win the Bahamas Bowl twice. Anytime you can get this team to a bowl game that is accessible via cruise ships, you have my vote on this. But so the experience was great, and I think I want to follow up on what you said. And again, it's a new world that all of us live in. Liberty lost some of their most important players who chose to go in the portal or chose to get ready for the NFL, and they were a little bit shorthanded. Again, a credit to Coach Lembo and his staff that there were no players that didn't participate on the Buffalo side, including the kicker that had already made a commitment to go somewhere else but wanted to be there with his team. There was definitely, I was at practices the 2 days leading up to it, you just got a different vibe, a sense that this was important. There was no messing around, maybe in the Bahamas, but we're here to win a football game.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, it was business as usual, and as I mentioned before, as soon as the ball kicked off, you could tell right there. Defense set a tone, offense responded, and throughout that game, it was a dominating performance by them. And then, again, we talk about just the culture that's been instilled over there, and you mentioned the transfer portal. I mean, outside of the 2 service academies, we had the least amount of kids in the transfer portal. Notre Dame was up there with us, but then we've surpassed Notre Dame because they lost a few after their national championship game. So that's a testament in terms.
What does that say to you?
That's a testament in terms of Pete's leadership. To be honest with you, and people use the word culture so much, but I look at it as looking at these teams that have lost so many in the transfer portal, or when you look at just the numbers of mid-year transfers, coming into a program. There's so much turnover, but for us, we're doing the best we can in terms of trying to treat our players, fairly, treat them, how they deserve, try to, find more benefits that they can have access to, and I believe they see it, and I believe, a player like Red Murdoch is appreciative. A kid like a Kobe Stewart, Alj Henderson.
Yeah.
is appreciative of what we're trying to do. So, more to come. It is a changing dynamic. You never know what can happen, but I really feel good in terms of where we are in the program and the direction that we're headed.
So what Pete did under the tight time frames that you've already addressed and that he certainly talks about. So amazing what Pete was able to do with the late start. What have you and Pete talked about how much more comfortable he feels, and now what can he do to take the next step, having a full cycle of a year here and a lot less player turnover?
Yeah, well, you see it. It's paying dividends already, having this full year under his belt. And when you look at this January, and it started obviously before January, but this January recruiting period, you wrapped up the 2025s, which again was more so a late start, but put together a very good class for Buffalo. But now you're already seeing them making so much progress and way ahead of pace in regards to 2026. And they have a great story to tell. You can go and talk to these recruits and, obviously the record, how visible you are from a TV standpoint, going to the Bahamas Bowl, coming back with a victory. You know what? We enjoyed our season. We had a great season, but we haven't reached our goal. You know what? Our goal is to get to Detroit and play in a championship, and people tell you the same thing and walk away with a MAC championship. So there's a lot to tell, which is exciting. The new weight room is something. Those enhancements that we continue to do to provide, for our student athletes, for their development as they grow here at UB, and then also as their development as they prepare to take the next step, whatever that might be.
Speaking of the new weight room and performance facility, the off-season workouts have begun. That will roll into spring ball, which gets started, I think, later on in March at this point. So those are kind of the next road marks on the way to getting ready for the 2025 season. So it'll be the spring game in April. Again, be the next chance for the Bulls fans to get a look at frankly a lot of the same faces, which is great. And is a little unusual these days, isn't it?
But even when you talk about that, we have our pro day coming up on March 13th, where there's a couple guys that are going to get some very good looks at the next level. Sean Dolak, being one, and then you have draft day. The draft, I would say, those 3 days of draft. What comes out of that, or whatever comes out from a free agency standpoint, we have 3 former Bulls right now on the Bill squad. So from a recruiting standpoint, recruits see this. Recruits see that, hey, I can go to Buffalo, and if my dreams and aspirations are to go in the NFL, the proof is right there. So, as we move forward, looking forward to get them back on the field from a spring ball standpoint. The spring game being April 19th, and then they'll finish up academically strong. And then, hey, that's one thing too. When we just talk about culture, we talk about accountability. But even this past fall, where you have a long season, you win 9 games. This program also had their highest GPA in program history. And again, that's a testament to the staff and how they hold their kids accountable, the type of kids that we have in our program, but then also all the support mechanisms that are there to make sure they're successful in the classroom as well. All
right, let's stay on the football topic briefly, because we always like to check in with you in your prominent role as the chairman of the NCAA Football Oversight Committee. You always give us some cool insight into the ever-evolving world of college football. So what are the hot topics now at your meetings for the Oversight Committee as we really are fully into the offseason now?
Well, there's one right there that actually we're talking about my travels and jet setting all over the place. I get to get jet set to Indianapolis again. All right, so
it's a good city.
Call that jet setting. I get to go. No, I love Indianapolis. So we're meeting as a committee next week, February 10th and 11th. Just talk about various aspects of the sport. But the one the key topic of discussion is going to be the transfer portal and the windows. Currently, there's 2 windows. How it exists, it's 30 days total that you can declare to get into the portal, 20 days in December, and there's 10 days in the spring. I was actually talking of jet setting. 2 weeks ago, I flew to Nashville for NCAA meetings. I was in Nashville for probably about an hour and a half, just enough to, I don't know, maybe grab a cup of coffee.
Not long enough to spend in Nashville.
Maybe grab a cup of coffee, and then I had to jump on a plane to Charlotte that night for a meeting early next morning with the FBS head coaches, and there was about 60 of them that were in attendance, and that was the topic that we talked about for 3.5 hours. So was the transfer portal, and really for us about the transfer portal and what came out of those meetings in the head coaches meeting in Charlotte, the AFCA convention. What we're going to talk about next week at our football oversight committee meeting is, hey, can we all just coalesce and just have one window and not go away from the window in the spring, but have one window. And then part of that window, too, as you mentioned with Liberty, and it was unfortunate what happened with Marshall because they opted out of the bowl game. Why do we have to have it right there near the end of the season, right when the bowls are going to kick up? Can we push that back away where we can get –
push it forward into January potentially?
Yes.
Okay.
Push it back, push it forward into January where we can have the bowl games over. Again, there'll be CFP games or what have you that are still happening, but just get majority of that competition over and then open the window up then. So that's going to be something we're going to talk about that I feel has great momentum. But as with everything, you have to involve all the various stakeholders, the coaches, the administrators, the conference offices, and last but not least, the student athletes, just to make sure, hey, this is a plan. This is a sound plan.
The semester starts is your holdup on that, right?
Yep. And then, the academic year, but even as we're looking at it, there will be an opportunity for us to be able to open that up and for individuals who transfer mid-year to be able to go. So, but the one thing is just try to protect the postseason and not have to have these games, Marshall opting out and filling it in with Louisiana Tech, or we play Liberty and their starting quarterback, jumped in the transfer portal. So I think it's best for the game, and it's going to be a lot of discussion, and hopefully when we get to a point where we can vote on this as council, which I'm a member of council, in June, to be able to move forward with whatever this transfer portal looks like.
All right. On the front lines of all the rather dramatic changes going on in the sport, and nobody better to get the insight from than Mark.
All right, one thing, too, with that, I mentioned the council. The other piece that we're looking into is just eligibility. We see lawsuits day in and day out, it seems like, with people, I'm not going to say demanding, but think they have additional eligibility. One was the quarterback of Vanderbilt who sued the NCAA
because of his junior college time.
Temporary injunction, which is going to allow him that year, his true 5th year, to play. But right now, from a football standpoint, there's it's 5 years to play 4, and even your redshirt year, you can play up to 4 games and then a bowl game. One thing that's been thrown out quite a bit, whether it's internal, whether it's from the media, is why don't we just have 5 years to play?
You could play a full 5 years.
Just 5 years, 5 years to play, but get rid of the waivers. And what I mean by that is, say you have a ACL injury and then you're able to get that year back because you didn't play. Well, not even having any hardships. Be like high school.
You just get 5 years.
Yeah, you have tear ACL in high school. You know what? You don't delay your graduation a year. You have 4 years to go. Or even after the fact, professional ranks. You sign a 5-year contract and you tear your ACL. You don't get that 6-year back.
No.
So again, that's going to be a discussion.
Interesting, yeah.
It's going to be a discussion that we'll continue to have and see what it looks like. Not saying we're going to go there, but really define what eligibility looks like. And when I say eligibility, that's not just football, that's eligibility for all student athletes.
Gotcha. All right, let's bring it back here to Buffalo, and let's talk about some of the other cool stuff that's going on here within the UB athletics world. And let's start with this amazing season for Becky Burke and the UB women's team at 19-2, 8-2 in the MAC. Heading into this big showdown with Toledo on a 6-game winning streak, dominating the league defensively. What has jumped out at you the most about the women's basketball season so far?
Well, just plenty of excitement. We say this all the time when we talk about Becky, how the team has taken on her personality, and even coming down here, she mentioned in our interview, I asked her a question, well, tell me about a practice. And the first thing she says is, you're definitely going to hear when we're in the gym. And, walking down here, I heard them in the gym, whether it's the defensive communication, whether it's the enthusiasm, whether it's supporting each other, whatever the case is. I mean, you hear them out there, and they bring that same energy, to the court on both sides of the ball. Defensively they get after it. Offensively they play a fast-paced game. So it's been so exciting to see how they play. Also, too, just fans gravitating towards them and being able to build that fan base. Whether there's young people who are aspiring to be Bulls in the future, or whether it's folks out in the community that are just looking for another form of entertainment. We've seen a lot of growth there because it's number one, women's basketball is on the upward tick. So
about the fastest growing sport there is these days.
It really is, and even from NCAA standpoint, approved a new women's basketball distribution formula, which starts this year, which is going to be pretty much configured the same way the men's distribution formula is. So I've been impressed with how they played, their resolve and their grit. Being down. There's been a few games where they've been down and been able to
a 23-point comeback and a 15-point comeback. Third quarter, by the way, with those deficits.
So that's going to help them in the long run. I know Ball State is a very good program.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me says, hey, I'm glad we got them early, and we'll definitely see them.
And there's a rematch coming down the road too.
We'll definitely see them again, and possibly see them a third time.
Yeah. Yep.
And Kent State, the same way. So, big game against Toledo.
Tell everybody a little bit about Wednesday morning's 11 a.m. Education Day tip-off.
This is something that Deanne Keller and I have been talking about for, it seems like 4 years now. And they had it here a while back, way before I got here, was Education Day, just inviting kids, elementary, junior high, middle school kids, to the arena. And we did it for the first time last year during my tenure. We had like 1,200 students that showed up, and I tell you, Paul, it was loud in there. Kids were cheering. They were cheering for the Bulls, but I tell you what, they were cheering for everything. Even during the breaks, we play the music. Kids know this music. They're doing their dance to it and everything else and sing along with it. So tomorrow, wow.
You thought 1,200 were loud.
I thought 1,200 was loud. We're gonna have 3,500.
Wow.
Kids here, and the great thing about it, from all over Western New York, Buffalo Public School, Williamsville, Orchard Park, Clarence. I mean, you name it, they're coming there. So it's going to be a incredible experience for, first of all of us, being able to just make sure all the logistics and everything else works to get them in here, but.
Did you order extra juice boxes?
Just being able to see all these kids in here and just how enthusiastic they're going to be and how into the game. It's going to be something else. So I'm definitely looking forward to it and looking. You know what? I'm gonna say this too. I mean, I want it to grow even more next year. So I mean, it's an opportunity for that. And the thing again about that, Paul, is just capturing young people. And even like last year, I had a couple parents who are teachers that brought their daughters and sons back to future Bulls games. So just being able to, capture more fans.
Was there a plan? Was it planned to hold it in what is one of the marquee games of the year? And as the conference, as we know, Toledo is always going to be one of the best teams in the conference. Was that by plan to do this game against that opponent, thinking that you're going to take what's already going to be a high-level game and make it even higher?
Yeah, that was part of the plan. This game fit. I believe next year, after just looking at, being able to get this done. Last year, we did it the first day of the spring semester. Obviously, we're well into the spring semester this year. I think next year we're going to look at doing a winter break because, again, it's a huge operation, and hopefully we can find an opponent next year that kind of fits the. Hey, let's throw them in this different environment. Even though I know we were talking off air that Toledo's got used to these crowds and everything, but they won't be used to this.
Yeah, they won't be. All right, on the flip side, George Halkovich III and his men's team, they kind of keep taking those steps. We saw a really nice gritty win against Central Michigan a week or so ago. George and I have sat. George has sat in your chair, and we've talked a little bit about how he gets his team more consistent. From your perspective, are you starting to see some of those signs?
Yeah, we are. I mean, it's just putting a full 40 minutes together. I mean, you're seeing the signs, and the thing I like about it too is just the development of our guys from last year. Seeing how like Ryan Sable has developed, seeing how AJ has developed, Bryson has developed, and now when you think about it, now the influx of all these younger guys in our program, what are those guys going to look like next year as we continue to build this program? And he's building it in a way that this time day and age in collegiate athletics is a lot of, I'll just call them mercenaries from an NIL standpoint, but he chose to let's develop some young people and have some cohesion together and kind of build a nucleus of people as we move forward. And definitely appreciate the work at hand. I know that people want to see more wins. I want to see more wins. George wants to see more wins. We understand that, but this process that we're going through and the growth that I've seen from the team and the anticipation of like how we're going to finish out here, and then even next year, I believe that we're well on track.
On the wrestling side, you were in here when we recorded our interview with Donnie Vincent a little earlier, and they've got a big stretch of 3 straight at home, next 3 Sundays at home. I get the sense that Donnie is settling into what is always that big leap to go from assistant to head coach. Yeah. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, no, he's had a plan since day one, which I admire his work. Obviously just his commitment to the program, his commitment to wrestling in Western New York, being able to establish a club, obviously his outreach with our wrestling alums and being able to support him in ways that, help the program has been good. So, for him, I see an opportunity for us to, go through the season. We have some, couple kids that are ranked, or maybe one that I believe should be ranked nationally in petite, but having the opportunity to have this at home, seeing how we've reimagined, our matches at home in regards to, you see more of the courtside seats, or not courtside seats, I should say mat side.
There you go.
Mat side seats. How we kind of reconfigured the corral, of the teams. Utilizing how we intro our wrestlers with our new lights that we have in our arena. So when you even look at the attendance, it's been well attended, and for us to be able to finish out with 3 home games and just get people more involved in wrestling, and to your point earlier, just seeing that progress. And I think the other thing too is we look at building a program is his approach to recruiting, which he and his staff gets after it, which it's good to see kids on campus, kids excited to be here. And being able to tell the story of wrestling here at UB. And you know what, for me, it's very important to get that program, top of the MAC, which I believe we can do under his leadership.
And if you don't have enough going on around here, you get to host the Mid-American Conference Swimming Championships towards the end of the month of February. And we talked to Andy Basher a little earlier about what a big deal that is. What's the undertaking involved in bringing everybody into the pool here?
It's huge. It really is. I mean, it's it's just not our swim program. I mean, we have to lean on all members of our department, from not just from a facilities game day operation standpoint, production standpoint, but from a volunteer standpoint. Whether it's timing, whether it's working with the corral that's down there, escorting folks. I mean, there's a lot that happens. It's a huge undertaking, but again, it's just another opportunity for folks to come to our facility and see, our Dorsey Reynolds swim deck, which is phenomenal facility here, not just here in New York, but here in the Northeast. So, again, Andy's has a consistent program. Last time we hosted it, we walked away with a MAC championship. You never know with times and who wins, who knocks off some of the favorites, and where these points can sort out. But looking forward to being able to host that for 4 days here.
Was it the last time that it was here that you dove into the pool? Are we planning another one of those? Another Mark Alnutt appearance off the 3-meter dive there? So
me, I always have a long answer for everything, it seems like, but in this case it'll be very short. I'm gonna say no.
Oh no!
But quick,
that's a once in. I'm gonna do it once in my life and never again.
I will say this. You know what? It was something that I promised the team. My gosh, maybe my second year, and then things happened with COVID and everything. I finally got around to being able to do it, and I did it. Right? I get up there. You don't realize how high up you are, right? So I'm gonna jump off. I'm gonna do my best pencil I can do, because I don't want to lean forward and just do a belly flop or a backbreaker at that height, because I'd be done. And I'll be honest with you, I jump in, I get out, do my high fives and everything, wish them the best of luck, because what it was right before. It was a practice before the MAC championships. And I remember I'm like walking to the locker room to change, and all of a sudden I had this pain in my back. I go to the locker room and I had to get on all fours. And my back something was wrong. So I limped home, literally. I tweaked my back in some way, just impacting that pool. And, yeah, I was down for the count for.
All right. Well, I'm glad you know your limitations at this point. As much as we would love to see you do it again.
Never again. Never again.
You know your limitations, and we respect that. Mark, always good to catch up with you. So much going on here. It's that time of the year, and then all of your national stuff as well, too. So thank you for the update on everything. And, I will leave you with, anytime you want to get us back to the Bahamas, you got my vote.
There we go. Let's work on that.
All right, he is Mark Alnutt. He's the Director of Athletics here at UB, and we thank him for joining us on the In the Bullseye Podcast.